everyone, it's Amanda. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm coming at you guys with another doodle tutorial. You guys seem to really like the last couple of ones that I did, so I thought I would sit down and show you guys how to draw sunflowers. As some of you guys may already know, my bullet journal theme this month was sunflowers, and I had so much fun drawing them. They make me so happy, so I thought I would pass on the knowledge to you guys. Even though July is pretty much almost done and this video might be a little late, I thought you guys still might want to know how I personally doodle sunflowers, whether it's for future reference or just for fun. You guys can doodle along with me while you watch this video. So hopefully you guys find this helpful, but without further ado, let's get doodling. Alright, so as usual, we're going to start off by talking about the basics, which is the petal shapes of sunflowers. So for my personal method of drawing sunflowers, again, as usual, this is just how I personally draw them. There's probably a million different ways, and there's no right or wrong way to draw, obviously. But for me personally, there are like 4 or 5 different main petal shapes that I like to do. One that is more teardrop shaped, one that is skewed to the left or the right, one with a rounded top, and then kind of a mix of the both, so it's skewed to the right or left, plus a rounded top. And then you can always play around with the shapes, like make them taller and skinnier and whatnot. The center of a sunflower is kind of its distinguishing feature and very iconic. That's how you can kind of tell that it's a sunflower, not just a yellow flower. So there's a couple different ways that I like to fill in the center because typically it is a lot darker. The method that I used in my July bullet journal is kind of like filling it in with a bunch of loop-de-loops. If you guys don't know, I'm actually very impatient with my doodles. I don't like to spend a lot of time with them, especially when I bullet journal. I kind of just want to do it like quick and fun and easy and not, you know, really painstakingly hunched over and getting every single detail right. So for me, just kind of doing that loop-de-loop shape all around until I fill the center works perfectly fine. But if you do want to be more detailed with it, you can draw those individual circles. It's totally up to you. Another way you can fill in the center is almost like a cross-hatched diamond waffle pattern. You can also use a lot of dots and illustrative strokes. As you can see here, I kind of focus them on the outer edge and then bring them in towards the center. This kind of gives it more of an illustrative, realistic feel. And then finally, you can just leave it completely empty and then color it all in with a darker color. Moving on to the actual sunflower, let's put all of those elements together. So I actually like to start off with a pencil, which is really rare for me. Usually I just kind of wing it with the fine liner, but I find that this really helps. So I'll draw a center circle, which will be the center of the flower, and then I'll draw another outer ring around that center circle. The diameter of the larger circle is triple the center smaller circle. I find that the outer ring helps guide me so that I know that all of my petals are around the same size. So I'll start off with the center of my circle, outline it with my fine liner, fill it in however I want to, and then I'll start drawing random petals. Now this step is pretty important. I like to start off by scattering random petals around the circle. I don't go in order like, you know, one by one all the way around clockwise or something. I start off by scattering like 5 or 6 different petals all the way around. That way I can make sure that the angle of the petals are actually sprouting outwards and kind of in a starburst pattern. And then also this makes sure that you get a lot of randomness with the layering of the petals, because if you kind of just start from the top and then go all the way around, you'll kind of start just laying them backwards and it'll look too put together, if that makes sense. Once I have my main petals down, that's when I go back in and start putting petals behind the main petals, in front of the main petals, filling them in, using all of the various different petal shapes, you know, switching back and forth between the rounded ones, the pointy ones, you know, just however my little heart desires. And then once you fill all of the petals in, that's when I start to color everything in. So for my July bullet journal cover, I actually used multiple different yellows, and I thought this helped give the sunflower that golden look. So I start off with a paler yellow, then I go in with a more, you know, normal yellow, and then I'll go in with a golden, almost orange color. By the way, I'm going to be linking all of the markers and colors that I'm using in the description box below in case you're curious. But once I have the flat yellow colors down, that's when I'll go in with my darker yellow ochre color. It's almost like a golden dark brown, but still more on the lighter yellow side. I don't even know how to describe colors, but I'll use this to stroke from the center of the flower kind of midway into the petal, and I really flick my wrist so that it fades off into the end, and that just gives it a little bit more depth. It looks like the flower petals are like bending inwards, and it kind of brings everything together. So that's the actual flower portion, and then of course I always like to add in a stem. I like to draw the stems curved because in my head sunflowers always are like facing towards the sun, or they're always like very photogenic and like facing towards the camera of any picture. And then I'll throw in some leaves as well. The leaves tend to be a bit loose and droopy almost, but I don't really focus on the leaves a lot. In terms of my actual July bullet journal cover, when you're like adding multiple sunflowers, that's when doing the pencil guidelines really helps, because I'll always start marking off the circles so that I can picture where the sunflowers will go and where the leaves will overlap and all of that. You can actually see that I'm also drawing sunflowers that are from a side angle, and in order to do that I kind of squish the guidelines into an oval. So there's a smaller oval and then again a larger oval around it, and then I'll fill in the petals the same way, except some of the petals are going to be shorter because you have to fit it within those guidelines. I hope this makes sense. In order to give it that perspective of like a sideways flower, I'll also skew some of the petals so that they are wider, and it kind of makes it look like the perspective is coming at you. It's really hard to describe, but hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing in the picture. It's just trial and error and playing around with the different petal shapes. By the way, I accidentally used the wrong green for this illustration, and it ended up looking too dark and very bad, so ignore that and picture the green that was used in the previous flower. So that's how I've been drawing my sunflowers this month, but I wanted to show you guys a couple different options and different styles that you can draw sunflowers in, just because there's so many different ways, and you know, just wanted to give you guys some ideas. So if you want a very clean, bold look, I would try making all the petals one shape and very even and uniform. As you can see, I'm just sticking with the pointed shape all the way around. Another thing I experimented with was playing around with drawing lines in the center of the flower, so kind of following the shape of the flower, and it looks pretty cool, almost, again, very stylized. The next sunflower style I did was more illustrative and realistic. Same type of deal. All of the sunflowers, I start off with the guidelines and the center and then the petals. But with this one, I'm not really focused on making sure that the petals are all uniform. So I'm playing around with the petal shapes. I'm adding extra strokes onto the petals so that it looks like the petals are curling upwards. I'm adding little strokes as well. And it's more of a sketchy sketchbook, like a sketchbook type of feel, and it looks really realistic. Later you'll see that I fill it in with watercolor, and I'm not focused on fully filling in the petals. It's more just to get the essence of the sunflower, and I really like the way that this looks. This one I did a larger center and then smaller petals, and this gives it almost a more childlike feel. I feel like it looks like something you would see in a nursery room or like a kindergarten book, but it's still pretty cute. Then finally, I did one where I didn't even use any of the fine liners. It was just all watercolor. This was also really fun because I started off with the yellow petals, kind of in a starburst pattern, and then I went in with the brown, and since the yellow was still a little wet, the brown kind of bled into a natural starburst pattern, so it looked like petals, like the natural lines of a petal, which I thought was really cool. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. You guys should all be pros at drawing sunflowers by now. I've already been seeing a lot of you guys doodle sunflowers, but I can't wait to see more. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more from me, you can go over to my Instagram at AmandaRachDoodles. I do a lot of doodles, obviously, but we also do live streams over there, some videos. It's a fun time, so go check that out. But other than that, I think I'm going to sign off now, so keep doodling and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye everyone!